Maybe some of you learned to use computers this way. Maybe you had a computer lab in your school, depending upon the part of the world you were from, might have looked something like this. And maybe as you got older, you started to have things like this, where you have laptops in classrooms and we try to figure out how to learn. And if you're lucky enough like me and you get to be in G101 or G102, when you let your students use their computers, it looks like this. All right, and then we have this interesting dynamic about computers in education, right? The research is unequivocal. We know that evidence mounts that it's a problem for learning. And yet when we try to go to a digital-free classroom, everyone loses their minds. And so this has become such an important part of who we are and how we communicate. When we leave our homes without our phones, like, we feel naked, right? And so now how do we deal with this in a learning setting? During the pandemic, this is what education was like. Maybe you remember what this was like. It was awful for everybody. The students hated it. We hated it as instructors. This was actually a good outcome. Sometimes it felt like this. And trying to teach to a camera when this was your Zoom session, it was tough on everybody. You think about what's going on in high schools and junior high schools. There's a lot of discussion about, can we use technology to allow us to expand education to other locations in other parts of the world, and can we teach more people? And there was a hope during the pandemic that maybe we'd start to do this. And then I remember I was talking to Dan Schwartz, who's the Dean of the Graduate School of Education, and he said to me in 2020, we'll probably end up going back to what it was earlier because it was more comfortable. And we've seen kind of this pullback of trying to use education we had this moment where maybe we would teach more people. Now we seem to have stopped that. When we think about high schools, the question we often ask ourselves is, should we ban phones in the classrooms? Some of you may have children someday, and you'll be thinking about, is this okay, and how do I want this to happen? Jonathan Haidt wrote the book recently, The Anxious Generation. And you get all of these now communities who are trying to say, we need collective action to keep phones out of the classroom, and that's kind of a losing cause. Like, we know how difficult that is. We see it with us here. Trying to get a teenager to stop doing something, just wait. You're going to have a lot of fun when you have to deal with that. Of course, as Zoe talked about, the big X that we're talking about right now is AI. I work with companies all over the world, and I get asked, Rob, can you give me an example of a company that has completely transformed itself because of AI? And the answer is no, not yet. Everybody's trying things. Every country, every continent, large and small, everybody's trying something. But as I thought about it, I realized education, I think, is the industry that is most being impacted by AI more than any other. ChatGPT came out at the end of 2022. A year later, here were the stats. Over 89% of students have used ChatGPT to help with a homework assignment. 48% of students admitted to using ChatGPT for an at-home test or quiz. 53% had them write an essay. And 22% had it write an outline for a paper. And that was 2 years ago. When I graded papers this year for systems leadership, you could see the writing, how it changed even from a year ago. Like, you could see the cadence was the same. The words that were used were the same. The sentence structures were the same. This is going to happen. Like, you can't put the genie back in the bottle, but I could see it on the other side of grading the papers. What's interesting, I made a joke in that class. I put up the slide on the last class. I'll let you read real quickly what the prompt was. And I said this is a joke. One of my colleagues actually has already had a meeting. I know several of my colleagues have met with the Teaching and Learning Hub. Can we use the LLMs to grade our problem sets and to grade our papers? So, like, think about this for a second. Like, we got the LLMs writing it. You got the LLMs grading it. What role do the teachers and students play? Think about your kids. Think about your children. And think about the future generations and how they're going to be using these tools or not. Some people have said what we should do is we should go back to blue books. We should have written exams, oral exams. The problem I have with that recommendation, I can't think of an example in our species in history where going backwards 2 generations in technology solved a problem. Like, I just don't think this is a viable answer. So the question is, what are we going to do about it? Well, that's where I kind of hoping all of you as our young alumni are going to help us with this. Because I got to tell you, this is a big deal. Our faculty, we're wrestling with this. We're trying to figure out, how do we train the next generation of leaders that you're all going to hire? We're going to be trying to send you people to bring into your companies, to your startups, to your large organizations. What skills do we need to give them, and how do we do that? So on this one, on tech, what I want us to think about is the following. Number one, technology is inevitable. It cannot be stopped. Trying to fight it is a losing cause. Secondly, connectivity and AI are creating huge opportunities at an astounding rate. The speed with which this is happening, as Zoe talked about, is almost impossible for us to get our heads around. And by the way, educational institutions, not known for going fast and breaking things, not known for being quick. And then third, optimism towards technology is a choice we make. I think trying to fight it, can't fight it. How do we make sure that people are playing beautiful music with these new instruments?